Hi, I'm Alan Matthews. I deliver training courses for HIT. I've been involved in the drugs field for over 30 years as a researcher, trainer, writer, observer and interpreter really. I get commissioned to come into areas, listen to drug users, find out what their needs are and relay that back to commissioners who will provide services to meet some of those needs. That also allows me to gain insight into current trends and patterns in drug use, and that informs all the training and writing I do. What's the deal on legal highs? Because this seems to be the topic that's captured everybody's imagination over the past 5 or 6 years. Legal highs is a misnomer, a bit of a red herring really, because a lot of the substances that were formerly legal have now been banned. Although the problem with that is, as somebody very intelligent once said, you can't ban chemistry. The more the government prohibits these substances, the more underground chemists will begin to design drugs that are slightly outside of the law. The problem with that is that we don't know the long-term effects of these substances. So the course I run is a one-day course, looking first of all at youth culture, trying to understand why young people would take an anonymous white powder. Why on earth would anyone do that? You don't know the effects, you don't know the contents, you don't know the dosage. It just seems crazy. I try to get people to think about their own experiences over the past 4-5 decades of youth culture and how certain drugs have become popular at certain times. Then they'll go out of fashion and other drugs will come along. And trying to touch in on people's own experiences of being a teenager. What motivated them to try that first cigarette or their first alcoholic drink? It's the same motivations young people have today when they're presented with anonymous white powders that their friends recommend is a good thing to do. Of course, there are all kinds of problems and risks attached to that. So we need to understand a little bit about the chemistry of these things. Now, I'm not a neuropsychopharmacologist, but I know a man who is. I like to try and explain the chemical makeup of these things in very basic terms, in terms that I can understand, so that people can get some kind of handle on what the likely outcome of taking these substances are. So it's not a chemistry lesson. You don't have to be a scientist to understand this, because this really isn't about chemistry or science, or drugs for that matter. It's really about people, isn't it? It's about young people. Using substances which they are not too sure about and they don't really know whether it's going to be good for them or not. So it's about working with young people and being able to explain what the risks and consequences and the possible harms that these substances might do to them. Part of the afternoon is spent looking at how we can actually identify what the risks from some of these substances might be. We do a simple exercise around identifying risk, but also trying to figure out interventions that might help to reduce harm. If you're working with the young people, if they're determined to go ahead and use substances that they're not quite sure about, it's important that we have an opportunity to help them to understand what the risks and consequences might be. There are strategies we can put into place to help people to understand through education and prevention work what the potential for harm might be. There are also some treatment options for those people who might be experiencing problems, so we need to consider those as well. What can service providers do to help young people who may be experiencing problems around these substances?